So sometimes I say, trust your ears. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if you find an instrument you like the way it sounds, then you're most likely to be happy. The problem with these videos is if you've been watching some of these reviews, it's 5-10 minutes later when you hear another flute, and it's hard to compare them side by side. A friend of mine suggested at the beginning that I just play 30 seconds on each flute. So today I have 6 flutes here. 4 of them are 1.8 and 2 of them are 1.9, a little longer and a richer, deeper sound. And so I'm going to, at the very beginning right now, just play 30 seconds or 15 seconds on each one. And if you ignore the image and just sort of listen to it, listen on the best quality that you can afford and have convenient, maybe a Bluetooth, maybe your main system at home. So I'm going to first play, I'll call them number 1 through 6. This will be number 1. Hold that acoustic memory. This is number 2. Okay, number 3. No comments? I'm keeping it neutral. I'll let you decide. And number 4, the last of the 1.8 or D flutes. Okay, now direct comparison. What if you get a 1.9? What if you already have a 1.8 and you want to get a 1.9? Here's what a 1.9 sounds like. And the final flute, another 1.9. And there you have it. So you heard 6 flutes. So the point of this video and the others that I'm calling in this series called Shakuhachi Connoisseur. I don't know if you're the connoisseur, I'm the connoisseur. The idea is that by listening to other flutes, looking at them closely, you can appreciate, even if you're not even a musician, a little bit about what Japanese aesthetics and antiques are all about. And also, you get to learn about the shakuhachi, because I'm assuming that this video will be kicking around for a long time. But some of this information will still be interesting about how shakuhachis are made, why they're made a certain way, why they look a certain way. And so in this series, I'm going into detail about many different aspects, kind of in a rambling way. But if you hang on and listen to enough of these, you'll learn quite a lot about the shakuhachi. And then when it comes time to get one yourself, or trade yours in, or whatever happens, maybe really you want to take lessons. That's the best thing to do. And so I hope that these will be useful to you. And now, onto the videos. So keep in mind that the shakuhachi was actually a religious instrument or part of a meditation practice. So when you hear some flutes that are a little out of tune, sometimes that actually is not an issue. And if you were just learning how to blow even deep breaths, really almost any flute will do. But the shakuhachi is designed for this purpose. And of course it evolved into something quite musical over the centuries. So the Connoisseur monks, as you see illustrated on my t-shirt here, these guys may or may not be good musicians, and you know what? It really doesn't matter in terms of your spiritual journey. So a little bit more about the shakuhachi. You also may be noticing this little Buddha next to me. You wonder why I have it in here. It's got a little bell, but mainly it's to simply cover an ugly light switch. No, it's a lovely Buddha. And I think that you could look at a Buddha, in terms of being a shakuhachi player, look at the posture, look at the way the shoulders are back a little bit, head is slightly down, they're sitting comfortably, apparently for a long period of time, so this is part of the practice. So on to the first flute. Okay, this flute, among the few I have today, has a very nice curve here, and that is done with a metal rod when the flute is first made. It's not artificially growing like this. I'm sure maybe some flutes do, but mostly when you see this in a shakuhachi, this is carefully created to give you the certain look from the side view. So here's what it sounds like. Plays quickly. You heard it a little bit before. Flute number 1. It has a Hanko on the back, which I cannot read, so I'll post it with this video. If you can read it, fine. But what this really means is that there's no cost added to the flute because it's made by somebody famous, or their son, or their grandson. So it is basically what you have in your hands, and is it something you like? So this particular one has really interesting markings. It's dark, lighter, darker. To get beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nodes, very traditional. Red urushi, that's the varnish on the inside. And this is flute number 1, the unknown maker 1.8. Now this flute here, we know very much about. This is made by Gyoksui, Kono Gyoksui. His mark is on the back, and I'm going to play a little bit. It also is very classic and pretty. It has a metal joint with rattan as a decoration. The metal is really doing the work here. It has flush bindings, which are very elegant. There's only one here, preventative binding. And Gyoksuis are known to be very easy to play. The classical music, which can be very quick, and also play the Zen music, which can be very slow. And it handles both those worlds very well. So some flutes, if you see the tuning is a little off, but the tone just breaks your heart, then that's good for some pieces. On the other hand, you will need another flute as well if you only have a flute that plays out of tune. It's good for you, but as soon as you're with other people, it might be better to be able to play along with them. So here's what a Gyoksui sounds like. So I think it's a clean, a bright sound. I think it sounds like a breath of fresh air, and I think it's a wonderful Zen instrument. This one here has a Tozan style utaguchi, or the bone, and this one here is lined with a little bit of silver. If you see that, it doesn't affect the sound, but it means that the maker of this flute really spent a little extra tender loving care on this flute to make it as nice as possible. This was a Gyoksui. On to the next one. Kitahara. And this is another very well known and respected maker. Hanko in the back. A nice flush rattan bindings 1, 2, 3. Little cracks that have been repaired safely many years ago. Urushi is kind of a dark red, very beautiful, a rather large and metal-lined Utaguchi, Tozan style. That does not affect the playing at all. And this is a lovely Kitahara flute, and I'm going to just talk less and play more. Now it must be hard to compare flutes because I'm playing some loud and some softly. But that is the way it goes because some flutes encourage you to be able to play them loud. Others really don't want to be handled that way. So in terms of your playing, are you large-lunged? Are you big and boisterous and you need a flute that can address that ability you have? Or are you somebody who is really looking for more of an inward experience? And so a good flute will do both, but you really, like I said, it's you hear a flute and you say, that's the flute for me. And so this is a Kitahara. One thing about the Urushi, these are all old flutes. You can buy new flutes. The thing about the Urushi is it's made with poison sumac, which means that if you're allergic, and I am, you'll get a rash wherever you touch it. And in the shakuhachi, the only place you touch it is your lips. You will actually get a little ring here around your lips. And people stare at you, but that's the worst of it. So my first flute was a Gyoksui that was freshly made, and I loved the sound. But I can only keep it for a few days when that rash broke out. So then I went to getting a Zenmora. Okay, on to the next flute. Yes, Monty Levinson, the famous cast bore flute. His is a typical 1.8. A lot of these were made, and you can get them very reasonably priced. So when you hear it at the beginning of this tape, if you rewind it, you'll see how it sounds compared to the others. Actually, quite nicely, it compares. So what you've got is no root. Lots of bindings in case it cracks, but it hasn't cracked. Oh, a little bit. Oh, it has cracked from here to here. So there's this Hanko and the Monty Levinson. It plays loudly. It plays softly. It plays Zen. It plays Hankyoku, or meditation. It's a good flute. My very first flute was maple, but he hadn't been making these 30 years ago or so when I started, so I would have had one of these myself. But certainly this or maple will get you in the shakuhachi world just nicely. And also, you know, it's good to play something really inexpensive for a while just to get the feel for it. And another very important thing is, if you could be in the physical presence of somebody who's a good player, you will hear more in the overtones, and you will get some of the energy that cannot be captured in a video or even the best studio recording. So there's something to be said for the overtones of a shakuhachi, because the shakuhachi is built for overtones, not so much Western instruments, although they have wonderful tone qualities. The relationship of the column of air and the pressure points to the naturally occurring bamboo nodes creates a lot of unworldly kind of feeling. And so this is why we all play the shakuhachi, because of the way it sounds. And I took the shakuhachi up because of the way it sounds, not because it was Japanese, not because of anything. It was just an amazing sound. And that doesn't mean also that you have to play only Japanese music for it. But keep in your mind and remember that the 4 holes in the front and the one in the back is a Japanese scale. So Japanese music really lends itself the best to this. And so you can buy a 7-hole shakuhachi, you can try different things out. But why not start where the shakuhachi started? And so here we go, on to the next. Yamaguchi Shiro. This is a flute that is thick and solid looking. But if I weigh it, and I have a scale here, it weighs in at 1 pound, 1 ounce. Okay, is that a lot to you? I don't know. What about this? This flute here is another 1.9. Look how thin it is. This one weighs in at 8.5 ounces. So I don't know if you've thought about the relationship to the weight of the flute and you playing it, because some people who are quite serious about playing their instrument develop, of course, carpal tunnel issues because maybe they practice too much, or they're squeezing tightly. They may have some issue that a teacher can help you with, or their flute may just be too heavy for them. So I'll take a look at the difference. They're both 1.9 shakuhachis, and you can see that the nodes are in different places. The difference is that the thinner one is a Ji-Nashi. It has no, in fact, there's no urushi varnish at all on the inside, and that's why some of the notes are off. Because you can, of course, drill the holes in the right places, but of course, you can alter that pitch by adding a plaster on the inside, and then if the plaster is covered over with the lacquer. And so, getting back to this beautiful Yamaguchi Shiro flute, look at the light color it has. Not all flutes are dark, and I don't know exactly why. Some of them become dark and almost black, and others don't. So this has no cracks, no bindings. It's a thicker, softer kind of bamboo, which personally appeals to me. I'm going to play this, and this was, of course, number 5 on our list of 6. Okay, Yamaguchi Shiro. And now the unknown entity here, a very simple, beautiful sounding flute. I personally like this flute. It's got so much wrong with it, it's just so right. There's one note that's way off, but I'm not going to pay attention to that. I just want you to listen to the haunting sound. And keep in mind that for 1,000 years, for 1,200 years, people made their own shakuhachi. They went to the bamboo grove, they cut one down, a tree, they seasoned it, they drilled the holes themselves. And these holes are kind of crudely made. I don't know when it's made, nobody knows when it's made. There's no mark. It is just a soft, moody kind of flute that's really nice to live with. The more you play a flute like this, the more you feel how that flute should be played. So I can't play the same little snippets on every flute. They all want to play something different. So here we go. This is one of the nicer ones in the bunch as far as I'm concerned, but this is the personal opinion. It has no bone in, no utaguchi, nothing to protect that soft, raw bamboo edge. And when you play it, it swells up with the moisture of your breath, and that makes it harder to play. Okay, thanks for listening. This is part 2 of the Shakuhachi 1.8 Shakuhachi Connoisseur, and if you are interested, go look up the email address in the comments, and you can find out if these flutes are available right now. Thanks a lot.